All right, good evening, everybody. I'd like to call to order the village board meeting for Monday, June 15, 2026. Madam Clerk? Wait, check that. Please call the roll. Thank you.
Trustee Wilbrand.
Here.
Trustee Price.
Here.
Trustee Yeska.
Here.
President Nelson.
Present.
Sorry, Trustee Johnson.
Here.
Trustee Alapagianis.
Here.
And Trustee Anderley.
Here.
Trustee Alapagianis, could you please lead us in the pledge?
Would everybody please stand? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Moving on to approval of the agenda. Any additions, corrections, or deletions to tonight's agenda as drafted? Seeing no changes suggested, I'd entertain a motion to approve the agenda as drafted.
So moved.
Motion.
Second.
Second by trustee Alapagianis. Any additional discussion or comment? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Moving on to president's report, I have none. Moving on to reports and questions from trustees and working groups, starting with trustee Enderle.
I have none.
Trustee Alapagianis.
Yes, if you would indulge me just a little bit. I had the opportunity of meeting with the, oh my gosh, thank you, Swiss Q Print last week. Haven't actually been able to facilitate the ribbon cutting yet. The gal was supposed to follow up with me today, wasn't in, so I'm going to follow up with her tomorrow. But what I'd like to say is I'd like to address this to Tim Scott. And really, the feedback that I received from that company was tremendous regarding Tim, and I think that Tim, and according to the president over at Swiss Q Print, was the easiest person to work with, was the most flexible person to work with, and they are so glad to be in the village of West Dundee. And certainly, I know from the dealings that I have had with Tim, he's always been thorough, and sometimes they don't always hear the kudos, so I want to just say kudos to you, Tim. Thank you for everything that you do for us.
Yeah, nice job, Tim. And thank you for sharing that, trustee
Yes.
Alapagianis. Anything else?
No.
No, okay. Trustee Johnson.
Just the agenda.
Thank you. Trustee Yeska.
I have nothing.
Trustee Price.
Yep, just the agenda.
Trustee Wilbraham.
Nothing.
Okay. Joe, anything from the team?
Just that we opened bids on First Street on Thursday with the state. Geske is the apparent low bidder, so that will be on the agenda for the June 6th Village Board meeting.
July
So-
6th?
July 6th, I apologize. And so Geske will have both the First Street project and street and infrastructure program, very similar to what happened last year with Schroeder. So that's good news. It's only one contractor, so.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Joe?
No, that's all I have.
Okay, moving on to questions from the audience. This is an opportunity for those in attendance to address the board on items that are both on the agenda and not on the agenda. At the moment, we have one person who has signed up for public comment, and that is Elizabeth Miranda. Ms. Miranda, please come forward. Please note you have 5 minutes to address the board. You can feel free to stand next to this table.
Can you hand her the mic though, so that we can
Gentlemen.
hear it?
Sir, could you give her the microphone? Thank you.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the board. I am here to speak on behalf of my neighborhood. We have been having, well, I should say today was a wake-up call for us when we woke up this morning at 5-something this morning with gunshots in our neighborhood. Okay, this is not appropriate behavior for West Dundee, and to be brushed off by our police department when we try to give them evidence and talk to them, acting like we were being biased about what nationality these kids were. And not only that, we had another incident earlier at 2 o'clock in the morning. We have kids in our neighborhood that goes up and down our street every day. And yes, this is great and everything, but if you guys can't protect us and keep us safe, what is this gonna do? Our force is not as big as, what, Schaumburg, Hoffman Estates? We need to concentrate more on our community than building stuff that's gonna take more money away from giving it to the police department, where they can do their job and protect and serve us, and train their employees not to be biased against us. Okay? This is something that needs to be done. As you can see, I have 3 rows back there of my neighbors who all came out here tonight. We're done. We had a shooting over here in Highland Avenue, and we had 2 in our neighborhood. I was born and raised here. This is not the town I grew up in. And I think things need to change. Not with making brand new things. Yes, police department, fire department, they need new facilities. I agree. Coming from an EMS background, I agree. But first, worry about your community and quit pushing us underneath the rug. We're not a doormat anymore. We're not here to give you free money for us to get hurt. 6 individual, and what really messed us up was they were all let go. There were several charges that could have been made. They could have been property damage, trespassing, disturbance, brawling in the street, but yet they let them all go. Just have 2 of them walk in front of my house, in front of my daughter who was on the phone and gave her statement. And this is a community we want to raise our kids in? I don't think so. Fix it. This is what your job is. Fix the problems of the community, not building, not making the money. Making money is a small part, yes, but no. And this downtown area, I'm telling you now, Carpentersville looks better than we do. With all the board up windows, the businesses that's gone, what are you guys doing with that? Nothing. We're starting to look like the slums. That's what this town is looking like, a slum. And I'm sorry, but if you guys can't do your job, maybe it's time we reinstate new board members. Thank you.
Chief, maybe you can follow up with, all right, let's not do that. Chief, will you follow up with that group after the meeting tonight? Thank you. Okay, that is the extent of everyone signed up to speak. Let's move on to consent agenda items A through D. I'm going to read each. Consent agenda item A, ratification of payments for $820,371.79. Item B is approval of bill list for $1.4 million. Item C is approval of minutes to the regular board meeting for May 18th, 2026. And item D is special event request for Dundee Township Historical Society Historically Haunted Car Show on October 24th, 2026. Is there a desire by any board member to remove any of the items from tonight's consent agenda? Seeing no changes, I'd entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
Motion.
Second.
Second by trustee Alpagianis. Any additional discussion or comment? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Trustee Yeska,
Aye.
Trustee Johnson,
Aye.
Trustee Alapagianis,
Aye.
Trustee Anderly,
Aye.
Trustee Wilbrandt,
Abstain.
Trustee Price,
Aye.
5 ayes, 1 abstention. Motion carries. Moving on to unfinished business item A, recommendation to award 2026 street improvements and construction professional services agreement. Trustee Yeska.
As Manager Caravalero mentioned, the Geske was the lowest responsible bidder on the street improvements for this year. Actually quite low at a savings of $262,000 under what we had estimated. And I know there was mention that we hadn't used Geske before, but I think they did all the Algonquin work last
No,
year.
we have, Geske's been, I believe Geske's been in our community previously.
Geske, good?
Yeah, I looked back, in my tenure, I don't have experience with them. I mean, it's a name. I think the village had used them prior to my arrival in 15, but Baxter has extensive experience with them, and they're very comfortable with, recommending award to them.
Yeah, they did everything in Algonquin last year.
Yeah.
Okay. Comments or questions from the board? Hearing none. Trustee Yeska.
I have to do these separately?
Yes.
Okay. I move to award a contract to Geske and Sons, Inc. of Crystal Lake, Illinois for the 2026 street improvements project, representing the base bid only at a cost of $937,514.03.
Motion.
Second.
Second by trustee Price. Any additional discussion or comment? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Trustee Yeska,
Aye.
Trustee Johnson,
Aye.
Trustee Alapagianis,
Aye.
Trustee Anderly,
Aye.
Trustee Wilbrandt,
Aye.
Trustee Price.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carries.
There's another. I move to approve a proposal with Baxter and Woodman for construction services at a cost not to exceed $100,060.
Motion.
Second.
Second by trustee Price. Any additional discussion or comment? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Trustee Yeska,
Aye.
Trustee Johnson,
Aye.
Trustee Alapagianis,
Aye.
Trustee Anderly,
Aye.
Trustee Wilbrandt,
Aye.
Trustee Price.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carries. Thank you, Eric. Moving on to item B, authorization or authorizing a memorandum of understanding between the Village of East Dundee and the Village of West Dundee regarding Fox River sculpture maintenance obligations. Trustee Enderle.
Okay, so we're back on the sculptures again. We'll do a memorandum of understanding with East Dundee, so each side will take care of the cleaning and maintenance of the sculptures on their sides of the river, and then we'll have a joint agreement to work together to clean the middle one when it needs to be cleaned. So I think it's up to $500, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, $500 annually, except for a case of willful misconduct, then it would be $1,000.
Okay, comments or questions from the board?
Two things. One is, I think, in terms of just general maintenance, it makes sense to kind of split it up. But like if there's something more catastrophic, some ice damage or something like that, it seems like more like the bridge, we should probably set it up so that, we'll jointly pay for it and not sort of luck of the draw of like whose one gets damaged. And then I guess on the middle one, so we just contribute, and then who's actually doing the maintenance, or our staff would do the actual cleaning? And
I think it would be on a alternating basis, I believe, the way that was understood
okay,
for the middle one.
okay, because I just want to make sure, because if everybody's in charge, nobody's in charge, and
Right.
so just
Okay.
And it's being done though by village staff, right? Yeah. Do we know when they're gonna be installed?
I believe they've been delivered, or they're shortly thereafter.
Yeah, I thought they were on their way.
So we don't know that exactly yet.
Okay, and then, and they're installing them? I mean, they're coming, they're delivering them, they're the ones who's installing?
There's a contractor with the rental that's an additional cost that we agreed to as part of the original installation.
Okay, so it's not part of the original, just for the sculptures, there's
No, it
additional
was the
cost.
sculpture plus the installation costs were authorized separately.
Okay.
Trustee Enderle, you have the floor.
Okay, so I move to approve a memorandum of understanding between the Village of West Dundee and the Village of East Dundee for the long-term maintenance of the Fox River art sculptures as attached.
Okay, that's a motion.
Second.
Second by Trustee Johnson. Any additional discussion or comment? Hearing none, Madam Clerk.
Trustee Anderle.
Aye.
Trustee Wilbrand.
No.
Trustee Price.
Aye.
Trustee Yeska.
No.
Trustee Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Lapagianis.
No.
And for you, President Nelson.
Aye. So we have 4 ayes, 3 nays. Motion carries. Moving on to item C, Spring Hill area redevelopment efforts to date and 3D virtual modeling tool. Trustee Price.
Yeah, this is an update to all the work that's being done on, for Spring Hill Mall. Saw in your packets some great graphics and stuff, so I'm just gonna hand it over to, I guess, Director Scott, and let you go from there.
Well, sure. With us tonight are Housea Living Associates. Devin is co-founder of the company. Suchan is project manager. I'll certainly let them kind of introduce the firm. What you're going to see tonight is essentially the culmination of a number of months' worth of work to envision a brighter future. It is not a build this scenario. It is a scenario-based tool, however, that can help us set the table now that we have a blank slate on premises for future efforts, likely done in component parts. I don't want to steal our thunder, but that's kind of the setup. So.
Okay. All right, sounds good. Who is running the video show tonight?
We'll kind of go back and forth,
Okay.
Sujan and I, and then Tim will have a section here. So I'll just kick things off. Oh. So I'm Devin Levine. I am a principal and co-founder of Housea Levine. We are a planning, zoning, design, and geospatial firm based in Chicago. I started the company about 21 years ago with John Housea. Along the way, we sort of established ourselves as leaders in 3D GIS and have developed a unique approach to helping communities make smarter decisions. And what we're able to do with this sort of pipeline that we've executed really across the globe at this point is we take your investment in GIS, we we turn it into 3D, and then we bring it into a game engine and allow you to sort of immerse yourself in that scenario. And it provides a unique perspective and interactivity that really was sort of trapped up inside these video games that our kids play. And we have brought it into the sort of the workplace. And so for this assignment, if you remember about a year ago, I approached the village. We had known you were looking at a TIF for the mall. I think Kathy had reached out to our office a long time before that, trying to assemble a team of consultants in the region to help the community with the TIF. It's not our strength. It's sort of when we need economic expertise, we sub out for it. And so you put together that team, you created the TIF, and we were sort of, knowing it, the TIF was done, we reached out to Tim to see if we could help really bring some action behind it and help visualize what the potential was. We had seen the studies done by AECOM and some of the other folks that had helped you visualize the potential, and we were sort of thinking, boy, this would be great to get into 3D and really help you and the residents demystify, what could get on that site. So with that, Sujan and I led our design team through an effort, and we're here tonight to present the findings. So with that introduction, I will pass it over to, I think, first Tim, who's going to walk through. Oh my God.
There we go. Take it one more. So, over here. That's so small. Everybody here, fortunately knows where they are and what the regional context is. Just at scale, though, when we were presenting recently to the National Planning Conference, the American Planning Association online a couple weeks ago, to give a frame of reference for everybody, we just from downtown APA's office to O'Hare, from O'Hare out to where we are in our lovely neck of the woods. So that was just for context. Obviously, again, everybody in the room is likely familiar with the study area, and it provided us with the perspective to show what had been there, and then has been there, and then the intervention from 2016 or so that resulted in Cinemark, and then those green pads there that were intended to be retail and restaurant buildings that never materialized because the owner at the time couldn't pre-lease. So that's why we went a little bit broader, not just within the ring road, but the broader context. For me, this is where it really starts to click, wondering how we end up with sites that fall into kind of a gradual decline and then a precipitous decline, which we all witnessed with Spring Hill. On the left side of the slide there, you really see the evolution of retail. That's why we say it's always eaten its own. Each successive era has had a format, and that format largely supplants what preceded it, but not entirely supplants it. As you can see up there, including e-commerce and everything that's above it there, we still have societally all of those things, just in different proportions. But it shows that, where we're in the middle of that with the Indoor Regional Mall, 60s, 70s, 80s, glory era, certainly, but not relevant any longer to sustain 1 million square feet of retail and seas of asphalt around it. It just isn't sustainable functionally, economically, physically. So off to the right there, we just, that is a quote from me, kind of odd to quote myself here on the bottom, but when we were trying to explain it to others who aren't familiar with the marketplace, we used to be basically a donut with a lot of jelly in the middle, and we were the only game in town, and we became the hole in the donut as the corridors east and west of us, 59 and Randall Road, really became the next frontier. Thousands and thousands of rooftops that had been built, Elgin, Carpentersville, Algonquin, Lake in the Hills, all the way up to Crystal Lake, siphoned essentially our market potential, and to the east of us, certainly Route 59. So that largely affected our local marketplace, and that's when we started to see the gradual decline and then the precipitous decline. Again, you all at the dais, thankfully, enabled a decade's worth of work to get to where we are today. So you're quite familiar with a lot of the things there. Most of the board members have been in place. We have a couple new ones. But first intervention, certainly what resulted in Cinemark, recognizing again that the mall owner, a publicly traded multi-billion-dollar company that specialized in retail formats, couldn't pre-lease the retail and the restaurants that were to complement Cinemark. And to me, that was the red flag. When they couldn't do that and chose not to build anything else, we're like, okay, we've got to think bigger about this for the longer haul, which is why we had our conversation starting document slide deck from Sizemore Group that was from 2018 that really began the conversation about what a mixed-use future could be. I took that on a little bit of a roadshow locally. Some of you know that with the Rotary Club, the Chamber of Commerce, and that was to kind of socialize the idea of what a neighborhood-based redevelopment scenario could be like that was more befitting of the rest of the community. Weave it back into the fabric of the community. There's a reason that Old Town is the gift that keeps on giving 140 years later. And so we borrow on those principles, and because those are tried and true, and use those to help inform us as we plan the future of the mall area. That then, a few years later, between 19 and 21, we were relying on the mall ownership to advance our cause. I actually slid the plan across a deck on somebody in New York City, you may remember, and said the future's mixed use, right? And he said yes, but we couldn't get him to part with the money and take that next step. And if they were going to put in money into a mixed use redevelopment future, it was going to go to a place like Oakbrook Center or Northbrook Court. And so 19 to 21, we were trying to get them to do it, but certainly it didn't happen. So then what was our next step? Facilitating the mixed-use future resulted in us updating at a very high level the comprehensive plan. That led to the new TIF, and then with that and some bonding, are able to start acquiring property. Again, most of you are very, very familiar with that, but we'd like to provide, especially with the audience as well, or the one that we had online recently, to really paint a full picture about how we got here. And then where we are now in terms of, again, the timeline at a high level as to what's been invested. And of course, the demolition process began. And Hausea Levine was able to source some really nice photos here showing us where we largely started. And partial, looked like a scud got in there, and then more. And then, of course, where we ended up with the mystical mounds that everybody had some fun with. I think I've been told online with what the Mysterios piles are new moguls at the time of the Olympics in the Italian Alps. But you do this one. I would just say, we're not alone in this endeavor. Right? All over the region, Chicagoland, Midwest, nationally, internationally, in some instances, where the Fortress Mall era has required interventions. So this is just a small sampling of the projects where they're also doing the same things to try and address, same meaning tackling proactively to a certain degree the redevelopment scenarios. In the case of Fox Valley and Hawthorne, those mall owners, those are both owned by Centennial out of Dallas, they immediately went to the municipality and said, we're prepared to reinvest in these properties. We did not have that luxury. Motorola, the Viridian project, and the Stratford Square project. Motorola, again, with some leadership there, once it had been sold off the master developer, then doing it in pieces. Stratford Square is probably the best analog for us in terms of the level of government intervention required. Again, there's the timeline in a nutshell, a decade's worth of work, where we, of course, are with our consulting partners here at Hausea Levine. That was the demolition, of course, followed by the 3D modeling, where that's where they've taken it and begun to run with it. And then our current process, exploration of Public Safety Center 3 and associated infrastructure, the primary infrastructure that would run through the site to, again, tee up the site for redevelopment and new development to make it as attractive as a place as possible to attract the private investment that's going to be required to advance the cause.
And then, so you had done the market study with AECom. We sort of took that as a starting point. And you'll see when I hand it over to Sujan, the technique we use It's not like how we used to plan even 5 years ago, where we would kind of look at those numbers and start drawing and kind of hope you hit them. And then when you didn't, you sort of made buildings bigger, and then parking lots were too small. And so it starts to become a little bit of a game where you're pulling on strings, and as you pull one, it starts shifting. And our approach, we use a software product called City Engine, and it allows us to design in real time. And so we have those market numbers, those figures, the amount of new rooftops, the amount of square foot of retail you can support. And on top of that, we know your parking requirements, either as they exist or what what might be supported on the site. And what we're able to do is to design, and as we're designing, these dashboards are moving in real time. And so if we pull the building up too high and there's not enough space to park it, the parking lot turns red. We know there's not enough capacity. And so it allows us to design into the numbers, and that really unlocks a lot of potential here. And so, there's an expression in the planning world that it's just a pretty picture. There's a lot of data behind these pretty pictures, and so we're excited to show it to you. So I'll hand it over to Sujan, and he'll walk through sort of our approach to building what we call the digital twin.
Thanks, Evan. All right, so the next couple of series of slides, I'm basically going to walk through how we, approach the scenario planning, how it's been an iterative process. It's not just like Devin said, like these numbers were, he had several studies done in the past. How do we make it work? What are the different kind of ways to make it work? So we wanted to visualize a different kind of platform and way to kind of see what's possible, right? So, first off, like as with every study, we kind of like did a preliminary study area analysis, analyzed the existing conditions, took into consideration the different kind of like existing businesses and also properties and arrangements within the study area. So as we progress through the slides, you'll see, the boundary kind of change. And that also is, a benefit of this scenario planning process that we've gone through. In the latter slides, you'll notice that the U-Haul site, the existing kind of businesses, Jewel Osco, those were kind of like peeled off from the visualizations or like the scenarios. So with that, first off, before we began, drawing anything, we looked at some of the precedents that have been set. So in talking with Tim and some of the other presentations that he's given, we kind of like developed an idea of what the preferred mixed-use typology would be, what are the different kinds of street typologies, what are some of the kind of, residential typologies that are suitable for any redevelopment in the area, and so on with like the retail and entertainment as well. Before sketching or like before designing anything or like before getting into the scenarios, it was pretty important to set up a framework. So the framework is sort of like a bubble diagram of uses and arrangement of how they could be suitable across the study area. And this kind of like provides an overview of the spatial organization. So this was key. And as I progress through the slides, you'll see, the iterative process. So once we set the framework, then we started sketching out different kind of iterations of what the land use organization, the mix, the building size, the space uses could be. So as you can see, we can quickly go through this process to kind of like analyze different conditions. And once we set up, finalize a scenario, we can then, take that, kind of think through what the transportation infrastructure required to sustain that scenario would be, think through some of, go through the subdivision ordinances and see what kind of road typologies would these, does the current subdivision ordinance kind of support? And it also helps us flag, like, hey, do we need to update that anywhere? And once we've done that,
Okay, before you go there, The framework itself with the components on the framework, how was that decided as to which components go where?
So the list of like 5 or 6 uses that you see on the screen, that's kind of like what we took from the study that AECOM did, Sizemore Group did. We had several discussions with Tim as part of our like kickoff trip. We were out here, analyzed the existing conditions, and basically the organization was done to avoid any, let's say, like planning best practices, to support planning best practices and discourage any incompatible uses, right? So we know there's already kind of like the Lennar Group, the Hickory Glen, I believe, to the northwest. So you want to have more residential next to residential. So you kind of encourage more context-sensitive design. So all of these kind of things, along with like planning best practices, help us identify what uses should go throughout the site.
And if I may, that is just a singular scenario of
Right.
bubbles.
Okay.
They are amorphous by design. They can get bigger, they can contract, expand and contract. Again, you've got traditional, as John just mentioned, residential to the west. So we're saying you're building off of compatible land use. Cinemark is commercial entertainment, so logically that's where that bubble is. Main Street off Main Street, Main down 72, but something internal to the site. Typically that takes the form of mixed use, like our beautiful, idea of traditional Main Street that we've been blessed with here. The open space / civic, right now the retention pond has always been just utilitarian and very, very deep and hemmed in by the 4 roads. So the idea of pulling someone into the site and expanding that out to amenitize that area in some form or fashion is why that's central. Existing commercial, whether it's backing up to the shopping center that has been exactly reused for U-Haul, or the Route 31 outlets, the Red Lobsters, et cetera, the world over there, the fitness, again, a bubble, it's adjacencies. So that's all it was. And again, expand, contract, can move around. They can become more multiple nuclei, which you'll see in a half dozen slides or so for a scenario 2, changes the bubbles as well. So it was just a starting point, again, with the existing conditions, best planning practices, and trying to start the process. And you'll see in the subsequent slides here how then that begets kind of an analog process.
So all of the bubbles can change however we see fit.
It is a starting point. Old school, Devin and I have been doing this a long time. So he got electronic a long time ago. I still put down printed aerials and tracing paper. And so, that's the kind of the old school starting point. Now you can do things digitally, which is nice.
And then which piece is Carpentersville owned?
What is gray? We stay completely out of our neighbors' boundaries because we didn't want to dictate anything to them. The premise, of course, though, is anything that happens on our side of the corporate limits could organically spill over and allow for natural growth should they choose to do complementary things there.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'd say as we plan, we start with a real fat crayon, and we start to, as we design in, we get finer and finer. This is the roughest. It looks like very precise, those black lines. I can tell you these were sketches on a whiteboard with dry erase markers as we kind of went through this. So,
first pass.
Right. So this is like taking that framework through a couple of iterations, thinking through the transportation network, all the kind of like details, the need, and then we start over again with a new framework for a new scenario. So this has been, just to kind of like answer your question, the size of these bubbles change, the land use organizations can change with every kind of like alternate scenario that we want to explore. So this was kind of like the cycle. So we go back to the drawing board, cycle through the different kind of scenarios. And that's how we ended up with 2 scenarios. And we didn't just like pick 2 because, we were indecisive, but it was more to explore what's possible and to have a more kind of productive place for discussion. So what would this yield versus the other scenario, right? And these aren't just like pretty pictures. Like Devin said earlier, these are data driven. As soon as you kind of like explore different building types, massing, you get this rich output of data that informs, like how many rooftops will be supported through this redevelopment, how many square footage of, retail space would be made available. So you can go down this kind of pretty detailed analytical workflow through a digital design as well.
So John, maybe go back a couple slides to the new bubble. This is a key point because yes, thank you. Because I know it's come up a little bit. A project in particular that we referenced early on that is being parallel processed and contemplated is Public Safety Center number 3, which is basically where that civic is up there that translates to approximately 4 acres where Elm meets the ring road, just basically northwest of the existing Cinemark, is the least commercially viable of the sites within the ring road, and that's the morph. In the original scenario, where there was a civic use just to the northeast of the open space as shown here, in that other bubble, originally what you'd see in a greater downtown area, historically, maybe a use like a library. We used to have one across the street that is now, I believe, the First American Bank site, and also had been in this building, I understand. But that is a transactional traffic going in all the time. So putting it near open space, it's a happy occasion to take a library trip, very family friendly and centric. So that's why, without overly committing our public library district to that, that was that type of use. I don't know why it changed in size and morphed from that area that was closer to the civic heart and moved to the northwest. It's because the nature of the project changed. What was being considered for that bubble?
Is there a vision for this that you have seen through your experiences that says this is a great model for us to look at? I know you mentioned 4 other things, buildings that are development areas that are being built in our in the Chicagoland footprint. Is there one inside the Chicagoland footprint or outside that you say, I really like this and I would really like to model?
I don't know if it's a function of replication, Mark. I really appreciate that question. There are lessons that can be learned from all of those projects, and then instead of copying that or using it as a blueprint, we use the lessons that are learned from those to inform the things that we're presenting tonight, and always benchmarking all those projects, their relative sizes, the relative use mix, their scale, how the internal transportation works, are they pedestrian and cycling friendly, all of those. So going back to that list of retail formats and the evolution of retail and place-based retailing, there are really good examples in each one of those categories.
That's it.
And so I think it's more of an amalgam of those things. Again, the lessons learned. I don't know, Devin, if there's one in particular that really excites you. I know the work you were doing in Morrisville, North Carolina, but I could say Reston Town Center from 30 years ago was a groundbreaking kind of revisitation of traditional town planning scaled up. There are lessons to be learned from historic places like Savannah's Core or Boulder's Pearl Street. In Chicagoland, certainly, or Chicago neighborhoods, other suburbs, every one of them, and their path to downtown revitalization. We learned from those things too. A site like this really would be an amalgam of some of those ones we put on screen already.
Okay.
So I think there's something to learn from all of them, so that we can do something custom that really speaks to the character of West Dundee.
Okay.
Isn't a copycat or a retail format du jour. It's really a place-driven exercise. Now again, we're not the developer. We're setting the tone, theoretically, collectively, whole's gotta be greater than the sum of the parts. Sorry for, the synergy kind of, word, but it really is the thing that when it all comes together, it feels purposeful, intentional, deliberate, and special. Long-winded answer to say, we can learn from all of these other projects.
And probably
Vernon Hills Hawthorne Mall is a really good one right now over the last couple of years. As they started their intervention with their mall, they were kind of pushed into it because a new lifestyle center, really slick, called Melody Farm, was built. Residential center. It's kind of a little, I think of Deer Park, but with a little more architecture and playfulness of today. But Melody Farm proved wildly successful, and that kind of spilled over to the mall site. Centennial, with similar partners on Melody, then started to get aggressive and working with Vernon Hills to start by taking down their Sears. So if you think about our old Sears, they're doing theirs in phases. Their demographics are exceptional. They wanted to keep what maybe they could salvage of the mall, but they still had an active Macy's and some other higher end restaurants. And so they were doing it in phases. But I think that's a really good comparison for us in terms of aspirations
Vernon?
from mall-centric redevelopment.
I appreciate the context. The visualization, are we going to get a chance to walk
Yeah.
through that?
Yeah.
Wonderful.
We can pick up the pace.
Awesome. So again, all of these kind of, imagery, the scenarios, they are data-driven and inform what's possible, just leads to a more informed discussion. Just want to quickly go through what we've done, like in terms of the workflow, and then we can get to the visualizations. I mean, as we've discussed earlier, we started with a sketch and then bring it into CAD, and then City Engine, the tool that Devin mentioned, really helps us, build the data-rich models and inform the different scenarios, and we take it into Unreal Engine. So let's see if this plays. So City Engine, like any other 3D software, helps us visualize the mass of what's being proposed, but also with this dashboard that I just pulled up, you can see as we make changes to the building, to add a floor, change the use, the metrics kind of give you instant real-time feedback. So this is not just a, like Devin mentioned earlier, a pretty picture, but it's really helpful to have informed discussions with the economic development or with real estate, or have more solid numbers behind what we're proposing and why that's feasible or not. So we take that, and then the next two slides here are basically going to we'll show you the two different scenarios that we developed. So if you look at the numbers here, you'll see the numbers change from scenario one, where there was less intense mixed uses, more open space, more space allocated for the entertainment district, to now when we have a more kind of Main Street retail with mix of uses, you'll see that the numbers, residential numbers jump, right? You can see the parking requirements, the numbers jump. So the different scenarios using City Engine kind of helped us assess what's possible, what the implications are, and also informs the infrastructure kind of needed to support these differences. And then we take it into the 3D City Engine model into Unreal Engine. And the reason we do it is, it's hard to grasp the idea or experience the space when you're looking at it on a 2D map with colors, right? Yellow for residential, red for commercial. That's kind of hard to understand what the actual kind of resident walking through that space would experience. And these tools kind of help us do that. So these are just some screenshots of the proposed kind of scenarios. Again, not to kind of determine what should be built, but to kind of have a discussion about what the different scenarios could be and what's possible. So, you can get down on a first person kind of view on a street level and visualize the future development, but you can also get a pretty aerial view, like a 30,000 view of the proposed scenarios. So this is again scenario B, looking at the kind of Main Street through Main Street, right? We have a short video here of, and this is what the end kind of deliverable is of this project. So we're gonna develop this kind of game where you can plug in any future development within the study area and visualize it, walk around, and click on buildings, click on these kind of proposed buildings, and kind of understand, the uses being proposed, the number of stories, the dwelling units that will be part of that development, as well as the mix of uses. So you can have a pretty thorough, informed kind of walkthrough of the different scenarios. And then when we change the scenario, you'll see that, you can contrast and compare between the two alternatives. So this kind of like workflow really helps residents and any stakeholder kind of understand what's possible, but also gets the discussion going. So I think this is, definitely way better than having scenarios on just a piece of paper. So again, with this, I'd like to hand it back to Tim to kind of like talk about what this is and what this is.
Sure, yeah. So I just reiterate what it is and what it's not. So it's not prescriptive. It's not telling you what anyone to build. It's really just to, I think, serve as marketing material and to signal that the village is open to development of the site that sort of meets this character and intent. It's illustrative. It's not zoning. Certainly, you want to maintain flexibility to accommodate anyone that you think would be a good fit for the site. And so, so best way to think of it is a vision, a showpiece. We will package all this up in an application that you'll be able to run, drop in, go wherever you are in the on the site, and really start to explore what this new town center is going to look like. Starts to serve as a framework for negotiation. And there was a development we were working with in outside of Seattle, where similar type of project, someone came in and built something, and all of a sudden we had new baselines. And so we're able to, as development comes in, take away these potential models, replace them with existing, so you then can start to see how additional numbers are going to change and build on that existing. So it's a starting point, easily updated. We've done this for the Village of Glen Ellen. We maintain this for their downtown. Every development that happens in downtown Glen Ellen gets put in an application just like this. Their village board flies around the site, looks at it, makes sure that it's not too tall and it fits with the character. And it's an evolving application that the community maintains to make sure that they're heading towards their vision. And how it works in Glen Ellen, if a development comes in, they give us a 3D shell, we drop it into the application, republish it out, and hand it back over to the village.
So that could, for an initial trial, could happen with PSC 3. Williams Architects, Erickson, their engineers, that 4-acre site and that northwest corner within the ring road could go through this process. You could see what it would feel like in space, and then that in turn would be the first real thing. And then as new things are courted and maybe come to be, whether it's conceptual evaluation or becomes more serious on a project-by-project basis through entitlement, can be used as a model, the way we were trained years ago to make them out of balsa wood, out of foam core, and drop them into physical models. We don't have to do that anymore, thank goodness. So as fun as it was.
So to summarize, this is kind of a platform or a canvas where we can cast different uses as discussions progress. So if we talk with a developer and there's interest in possibly maybe a building or two at 3 stories, we can visualize that here so the public and decision makers can understand what's being proposed.
Correct.
So
Rather than
today
a
we're not
flat sheet of paper.
prescribing all of this. We are saying these are potential uses based on our planning experience. This is what it potentially could look like. But again, this is a blank canvas at the end of the day, but this canvas being virtualized allows us to model out a lot of different scenarios. Is that
Absolutely.
accurate?
It's perfectly summarized. It's a new tool.
Yeah.
It's a tool we didn't have before folks like Devin and company were working in this space. We always did everything in decks and stuff, and we're trained to take flat things in our minds and see them. Not everybody can do that or wants to do that. So that's why this has become so valuable for evaluation.
Yeah, I view it as both a sort of a communication tool and a study tool. So, right, we can communicate to the public and to ourselves even what, different options are, but also, sort of study what happens if we do this instead of that. And so I think it's really pretty powerful.
And each and every project that comes to the village goes through the normal planning process. So planning and zoning, appearance review, and then ultimately this village board. If it's large enough, there'll probably be charrettes, I would imagine, small meetings with the public to talk about some of the impacts of it. So this is, again, the beginning of probably many, many discussions. And this project will likely take more than a decade to realize.
For sure. And that decade that we summarized to get to this point, now with this tool and the pending infrastructure that would run through the core, the primary collector street and associated infrastructure, plus PSC3, all together is why we're already getting phone calls from experienced developers of projects similar or including those which we showed on screen today. But for this effort, the ones that are now in process and what we've done, we would not be getting those calls.
Tim, would it be accurate to say that this process allows us to take advantage of time to do some of the unsexy work of planning our roads and other infrastructure needs?
Absolutely, yeah. And that's what ultimately, because you look at looks like Pac-Man in there, because we have it's an old reference, right? The triangle of the ellipse removed, we have an odd shape. And to now try to find a way to make that area within the ring road, within West Dundee, as well as what's northwest of it, digestible for the development community, we have to start planning some infrastructure that you're referring to, what we've referenced. And that's then what will start to create it'll be more digestible. It's still a large area, a blank canvas, but that will help start stimulating the project by project study.
That's helpful. And this presentation and the short video clips that show what the visualization, how it functions, are we able to put that on the microsite for Spring Hill?
Yes, so that, I was going to mention that also. That is in development with IT. There'll be a dedicated micro website with a URL I'm afraid to mention right now because there is some placeholder content on it, but it's being worked on right now. So that will be not only this, but a repository for all the information that got us to this point in terms of that 10-year timeline,
Wonderful.
Those individual projects.
Oh, that's great. Do you think by July 1st we could have that live?
You just said yes.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
So when do you envision like getting public input or at least the thought process? Does that start? When?
Well,
It starts tonight.
Yeah, would the venue be possibly for maybe a longer form conversation, maybe at planning and zoning, or maybe just a public forum that's not connected to a
I
standing
think public
village meeting?
forum would work,
Yeah, probably hosted by planning and zoning.
Correct.
Yeah.
And the only thing I want to bring us back a little bit is some of the substantial lines that are drawn here this evening were based on the fiscal and market share analysis that the village also contracted with AECom 2 years ago, and that's where a lot of the framework for this has been created in terms of number of units and square footages for commercial based on market viability in the overall. So, I mean, this is a market-driven concept and a numbers-driven analysis based on the fiscal, the development costs associated with it, and is now being translated into more of the pods and the visualization effort.
Yeah, I would hate to see you get stuck on the planning hamster wheel and you just keep getting feedback and replan. I think this has been planned. You have the TIF redevelopment plan. We started with a plan. Take the input, but I don't know if you respond to it. I think the opportunity for public input as development comes in and you have developers saying, hey, we want to help you achieve the vision, there'll be a public hearing process. Your residents will get to weigh in on that. You open up this to public feedback, which is driven, we started with a market study. You then have to go back and do the market study. I mean, I think you really start to undo everything. And so I think the vision of this is.
A lot of these plans historically, you know, we drew them based on like pretty pictures and that sort of thing. And I think that's an excellent point, both of you, that this is grounded in what actually has market
But I do
potential,
think maybe
so.
this conversation, again, in a different setting, maybe it's second floor at Emmett's, but just calling it maybe a town hall or something of that
Oh,
nature.
sure.
Having P and Z.
Popularize it,
Yeah.
get feedback, get people excited. And again, just going back to the last slide that I spoke to, this isn't prescriptive, it's not zoning.
Right.
It's a vision, it's to start a conversation. And that, if that conversation is with your residents, great. Bank it and carry that into the conversation you're having with the developers.
Yeah, no, I'm with you 100%, because one of the examples that I've used of what not to do is what happened in Lincoln Yards in Chicago. They were very, very prescriptive about what exactly was going to go where, and the development community never followed. Now, it wasn't because the ideas were bad, it's just that the market changed, and eventually they were left to have to discharge the property at pennies on the dollar. I'm not saying that that's the risk that we run here, but if we say we are going to put a water park here, if we're going to put 5 buildings here, and the development community doesn't follow, it just doesn't make a lot of sense. We could sound cool for a while, but it just won't happen. So I do like the idea of having this conversation again, so there'll be more details on that as we plan it. I'd like it later this summer, but have this conversation again so that more people beyond those who are here tonight can see what we're talking about and how we arrived at where we're at today.
And we are working on a tool that will allow you to open this up in a web browser and walk around.
Oh, that's wonderful.
So.
I think just redoing this presentation a couple of times.
Yeah.
Is probably,
And I think you've used that successfully in Morrisville, North Carolina.
Yeah, it's a video game, so it requires what's called a GPU, a graphics card, and it's not in every computer. And I know my parents certainly don't have a GPU in their computers. And so what we do is we render it in the cloud. So you open up your web browser, you connect to an instance that renders it down onto your computer. Everything is fine and seamless. You don't have to have the hardware. It's in beta now, and by the time I think you're ready, we can have an instance up and running that will allow your residents to be that person walking around the site.
You want to be able to feel it, and it's so difficult. It's a paper exercise again. The immersive, I think, was the word you use a lot when you're describing it, is to really bring home in virtual world the implications of each of these projects, and then how they build off of one another to create what will be hopefully a place of lasting value. I always point to across the street, it's the gift that keeps on giving. And yes, we're in a transition phase right now, but there's a lot of exciting things, including that boarded up building with $1.25 million being pumped into it, and other things pending that will, again, start the next cycle. So it's there's a brighter day for this too. But Greater Old Town informs a lot of what we're doing out at the mall.
For sure.
Just like if you looked at any of your favorite towns, insert town, whether it's Libertyville or Park Ridge or Glen Ellen, you name it, or your favorite neighborhood that you saw when you were traveling, there are principles of good urbanism that underpin all of these things, and you're trying to avoid that cycle of whatever the retailing format of this particular era is, because those only last typically 15 to 25 years. And if they're not done at a certain level, they're difficult to reuse, and then you're scraping them clean again and starting over. And I can't say none of that would ever happen out there, but the aspiration is there to try and do something that will, again, be purposeful, intentional, deliberate, and of a quality that you'll care about and want to preserve. That's the aspiration. Now, when we go test this, we'll see what developers think, but we're aiming high, to say the least.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the board?
No, I just look forward to doing one of those sessions with the residents.
Yeah, why don't we try, team, if we could get one set up for July? Back half of July? If we could schedule one for the back half of July, I would defer to you to kind of come up. Do we call it a town hall? I think that maybe makes it clearer that it's a little different. The format will be a little bit different. And maybe we do run it like we did the downtown planning charrettes, just to have opportunities to converse one-on-one or in, small groups, that kind of stuff. So,
Yeah.
we'll talk about that. So more to come on that.
Yes, by all means.
I didn't hear what you said.
Thank you, Bernadette.
Oh, I'm sorry, if that's what I said,
Hey, no, ma'am, we're not devolving into that. You had the opportunity for public comment. If you'd like to talk afterward, that's fine. I don't like the tone of it. I don't like where it's going. Okay? Fair enough. Please.
I'll just like to, I don't mean anything underhanded. Certainly as a planning firm, we know community outreach is paramount to creating a plan. We started with a plan and refined it. And so what I'm saying is the outreach is, as far as our exercise had already happened. And so this is a plan that is built on community input and market. Certainly any plan, and that is the difference between a plan and zoning. It's a vision. It's malleable. You can, it's not strict, it's not regulatory. And so what I said was welcome the output and welcome the input and bank it and carry it with you as development starts to come towards the site. By all means, I'm not saying do not get input from residents. The community needs to craft their vision for their community. I strongly believe that. I'm just saying it's time to sort of start going forward and start marketing the site, start moving the needle in the direction, and there'll be plenty of opportunity for community input and community dialogue as the site starts to evolve.
Any other comments? Okay. Gentlemen, well done. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you.
Moving on to new business item A, July 4th fireworks display, special event application. Trustee Wilbrand.
Fireworks have been in the news a lot recently. East ND made some decisions on their side of the river regarding fireworks. This, however, has been a pre-established date in firework display that is to, in this report, or according to East ND, be possibly the last firework display over the river on the footbridge. But due to its close proximity, this one is still moving forward. So in your packet tonight is the July 4th, possibly 5th with the rain date, fireworks approval with the Village of East Dundee that should be on the footbridge over the river.
Comments or questions?
Do we really, so I noticed that there's this list of contingencies, right? One of them is that we receive $8,000 from East Dundee.
$800?
Or $800 from, it seems kind of petty to me. We'll be bringing people to the downtown, right, to come watch the fireworks, I just think it's, what if they don't want to pay us $800, right? I just think it's kind of petty.
Well, haven't we been having issues with East Dundee not even cleaning up? And, I mean, isn't that been some of the discussion that we didn't get a lot of participation from them?
This is just to cover the reimbursed expenses of the additional staffing for both police and fire to cover the special event as deemed appropriate by East Dundee.
Is East Dundee also being reimbursed? Because this is being reimbursed by Banditos or whatever.
Banditos
right?
paying for it, right?
But there's a different fee structure in terms of what they get or what they receive in terms of revenues based on the filing fee, the special event fee.
Yeah.
So we're just presenting it as, I think I had a request from a trustee what the costs were, and we just incorporated to ensure that the village was made whole. If the board wants to waive it, that's fine.
Because there's the expenses, I mean, for the property located at 410 Lincoln Avenue. I mean, we've talked about this before, that we were,
Those are, other than the $800, everything else has been standard language for every event that has taken place on the river, on the footbridge.
I just think it's gonna bring people downtown, you know, and it's part of what we should be doing, but that's my opinion.
But that's why you need people there to keep the perimeter, and that's what our cost is.
Yeah, but
But we wouldn't have to bring them down, being on a holiday and everything. It's not normal staffing. So it's an additional cost if we allow them to
But
do
you're also
this.
bringing people into the downtown, so.
we should be reimbursed.
I just, as you know, I'm not in favor of it, and I just think that East Dundee, by making a decision not to do any future fireworks off the footbridge because of the pollution that it causes, and then coming back and saying, but we'll do one more and pollute one more time, that's an okay thing to do. I don't agree with that when they've had plenty of time to look for an alternate location in their village away from the river and not affect the environment. And they just waited and waited and waited. And we had told them initially also that we were not in favor of this, but they still came back. And they had time to make a choice for a new location, but to come back and say, well, it's okay, we'll do it one more time. I don't think that's right.
Well, and events get canceled all the time too. I mean, it's not that they couldn't have canceled the event.
Right. And then you're closing the footbridge for the whole day on a holiday and a Saturday
Right.
when there's traffic. So anyway, that's mine.
Why don't you, Trustee Wilburn, why don't you call the question, see where things shake out, please?
Okay, do I need to read all of the requirements, or can I say?
Right, just stipulate it
mention
as
requirements?
listed, yeah.
Okay, then I would make a motion to authorize the issuance of a permit for the display of fireworks along the footbridge on Saturday, July 4th, 2026 at approximately 8:30 p.m. as submitted by Bandito Barney's Beach Club, subject to the satisfaction of the requirements listed thereafter.
Motion.
Second.
We have a second by Trustee Johnson. Any other comments or questions? Okay, hearing none. Madam Clerk.
Trustee Wilbrant.
Aye.
Trustee Price.
Aye.
Trustee Yeska.
No,
Trustee Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Alapagianis.
No.
Trustee Anderly.
Aye.
Whereas 2 nays, motion carries. Moving on to new business, item B, I would like to potentially table this. Do I have a motion to do so?
So moved.
Motion.
Second.
Second by Trustee Yaska. Any additional discussion or comment? Hearing none. Madam Clerk?
Who was the second? I didn't catch that.
Trustee Yaska.
Okay, Trustee Johnson?
The motion is to move, right?
Table.
To
Table
table.
it, yep.
Aye.
And are we tabling it to any specific date or?
That's a good question. How about the first meeting in July? Is that okay, Trustee Johnson? Are you still affirmative?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the motion to table it to the first meeting in July. So Trustee Johnson?
Aye.
Trustee Alapagianis?
Aye.
Trustee Anderly?
Aye.
Trustee Wilbrant?
No.
Trustee Price?
Aye.
And Trustee Yeska?
aye.
5 ayes, 1 nay, motion carries. Moving on to item C, commercial license agreement for Horizon Construction Group for village-owned property at Huntley Road and Elm Avenue. Trustee Price.
Yeah, the developers approached us about using village-owned property for staging as part of the development. And so this basically develops a license agreement between us and them to, there's a fee associated with it, and then there would be some kind of bond or something, right, in terms of restoration of the site?
Correct.
Okay, so I didn't actually read the whole recitals, but I didn't see that in the actual motion. So I
Tom,
just
what
wanted
are
to make
they
sure that
putting
was in
there?
What's that?
What did they end up putting there?
It's construction staging, so.
It's just, it'll go back the way it is now.
Are you asking about
Yeah.
what they're building on their property?
Yeah.
I think
Oh.
it's an
It's the
apartment.
Iron Flats
Iron
development.
Flats development.
Oh, that's back on now?
Yes.
Okay, all right.
At one point, they wanted to put a parking lot there and some other things.
What are we
but
doing with the
Now
bricks?
it'll just, it stays ours and it
Yeah,
will
oh, yeah.
go back the way it is.
The
for us
bricks,
to
are we
decide.
asking them to relocate the bricks for us?
We have not made any decisions on the bricks. We've discussed it with Public Works, but relocating them is a significant undertaking because of their current condition. And the question is relocating them to where, for what purpose?
Okay, all right, we can talk about that another time. Trustee Price, I think you have the floor.
Right, move to approve a commercial license agreement between the Village of West Dundee and Horizon Construction Group.
Motion.
Second.
Second by trustee Yaska. Any additional discussion or comment? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Trustee Price,
Aye.
trustee Yeska,
Aye.
trustee Johnson,
Aye.
trustee Alapagianis,
Aye.
trustee Anderly,
Aye.
and trustee Wilbrand.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carries. Moving on to item D, security camera trial implementation. Trustee Wilbrand.
For you tonight, with Chief Green is here, is a proposal for a 60-day trial run of 3 cameras that can pan, tilt, and zoom located on village property, overseeing both the north side public lot as well as some of the Riverwalk, the south side public lot behind our business establishments, and I believe the other one is off the extended stay and Best Western properties close to the Elgin border over on the other side. These cameras are equipped with the ability to run concurrent with our flock system, but they don't read license plates. They are controllable, as in they're non-fixed, they can move. And what's before you today, I believe, is a no-cost 60-day trial. And then I would like to see it, if we do move forward with that, come back to the board for a decision, which I think it is, where there is a 1-year cost of $12,000 for all cameras per year.
And there's no facial recognition associated with those, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
And Chief, what about the ability for audio? It's video only?
No, there is audio as well.
Okay.
Not recorded. No, I'm sorry. I take that back. I was thinking of the drone, how you can do two-way communication. I'm so sorry. I have multiple things confused there. The pan tilt zoom cameras are video only.
Video only,
Yes.
cannot real-time hear, and cannot record audio, correct?
Right. And there is not the two-way communication either, but it's video monitoring and recording.
Okay. And as far as the pan, tilt, zoom ability, I'm assuming these cameras would only be angled at the village-owned and public property, because in few of these zones, there is residences close proximity.
Correct. Correct. So the pan tilt zoom feature, you can pan tilt and zoom, but it has a fixed location that it is pointed at, and it's a typical, it starts narrow and opens up. But that part of it where it's preset would be preset to the public locations.
Not be in the range of any private residences.
Correct. For the preset location.
Well,
If somebody kicks in the front door of a private residence nearby, if that were in the full radius,
It's 360?
that could be an example of, if it's in progress at the time, somebody could take control of that camera and move it over. But as far as that's being continually recorded, that is just that fixed location, which is only in the public area. So in other words, 911 call comes in, somebody just kicked in my front door, and police department staff are able to jump on that camera right away. We would be able to check the full radius within that area, because we take the camera over and pan tilt zoom into that area. If it's reported a day later, hey, somebody broke into my house, we wouldn't be able to get anything with that unless they happen to park in the public area and we get to see their car parked there and they leave the car with crowbars and sledgehammer, but the continual recording is not of the private residence areas.
And by the north lot, we mean behind like Emmett's and that area, correct? Yeah. And then, so it would get the portion of the Riverwalk that's kind of right there, but not the other part.
Yes, obviously, we've only seen that on paper, so to speak, like, so we haven't been able to, that's part of the trial, is to
Yeah.
really see, you know, how worthwhile that part of it would be. But at least in concept, it would capture part of the Riverwalk as well.
And then you said there's auditing in terms of anytime the system is used, there's a permanent record of who accessed the cameras, what they did with it, and
Yes.
all that kind of stuff, so.
Yes, I haven't seen that interface, but I would imagine it's similar to what we're already familiar with.
So who's operating this? Is this, I mean, how does it go from just that view, and then all of a sudden, I heard you say something like if 911 came in and then it was, you know, the camera was able to be moved. Is there somebody always by the camera?
Not always, and that is why we never would have brought this forward if it weren't for the trial period.
Okay.
Because the answer is we really don't know how that would work out and how useful it would be, because you would have to have a person handling that, and we know the reality of that is this was all part of that initial discussion of trying to incorporate more of these kind of things through the dispatch center that we started to try to start pushing, you know, a year ago, because ideally this kind of thing would be a regional, you know, effort, and that is the likely, or I should say potential limitation to this is it might not be worthwhile to expend any funds toward it because we just might not be able to staff it adequately to do so.
But it's based on a local decision to point pan tilt zoom.
Yes.
Right, so it's would be one of our officers, one of our sergeants, someone in the organization that is physically manipulating the camera due to a call, an incident, or something going on. So it's not an outside firm that's looking at
Right,
manipulating
right.
it, but it's the West Dundee Police
Right.
Department.
The outside firm can't even look at it.
Yeah, no, I wasn't
Yeah.
thinking that. The other thing that, so I'm just trying to think of a scenario. So it's pointed at the back of Emmett's, and we pick up somebody, or it picks up somebody that's breaking in. But without having facial recognition of that, how do you even begin to know, to try to find
Well,
this person?
That's just like any of the other things that we do. Our folks thankfully are excellent at what they do and they can put together pieces of the puzzle.
Okay.
You know, vehicle descriptions, partial license plates, you know.
Depending if it's
time-
within that view.
Time and date kind of thing,
Yeah.
correct. So that's where the 60-day trial period, we'll have to see if it's worth going any further with it, because how much will we get out of it as far as the reactive, well, there was an incident that took place in this lot versus real-time, something's happening right now.
Right.
The other, you know, I put in the information in there, which is absolutely true. I don't know how the timing will work with the 60-day period, but as far as some of the bigger public events, like it wouldn't be installed in time for the bike race. I don't know if the 60-day trial period would still be going on when Heritage Fest takes place, but those are kind of slam dunk. Yes, I can talk to you for the next 2 hours how that would be beneficial, but I don't know if it'll be enough yet. So I wouldn't have even brought it forward if it weren't for the fact that it's the 60-day trial.
Okay. Trustee Woodburn.
With that, I'd make a motion to approve the agreement outlined herein between the village and Flock Safety, which includes a 60-day trial period and a 12-month total cost thereafter not to exceed $12,000.
Motion.
Second.
Second by trustee Alapajanis. Any additional discussion or comment?
Joe, after 60 days, this would come back for another vote to move forward with the full contract then?
Yeah, we can absolutely make that happen.
That's it.
All right, we have standing motion. Madam Clerk.
Trustee Wilbrant.
Aye.
Trustee Price.
Aye.
Trustee Yuska.
Aye.
Trustee Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Lapagianis.
Aye.
And Trustee Anderley.
Aye.
All ayes, motion carries. Thank you, Chief. Chief, will you and Commander Breon be able to meet with the residents who spoke
Yes.
earlier tonight after the meeting?
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, with that, I'd entertain a motion to enter or recess from regular session and enter executive session to discuss personnel.
So moved.
Motion.
Second.
Second by Trustee Price. Any additional discussion or comment? Hearing none, Madam Clerk?
Trustee Johnson.
Aye.
Trustee Lapagianis.
Aye.
Trustee Anderley.
Aye.
Trustee Wilbrant.
Aye.
Trustee Price.
Aye.
And Trustee Yuska.
Aye.
For the benefit of those in attendance, we are about to enter executive session, so we ask you all to depart. We will be returning later tonight.